minutes. Sirius XM, we are the heat. What's hot now in R&B and hip hop? It's Dion. Sometimes we got to do a big setup for these interviews.
Oh, boy.
A lot of bio information.
Holy
a lot of bullet points.
Oh, boy.
A lot of this, a lot of that. Today is not that day. I'll just give two names and we'll just jump right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, Maury Povich is here.
Thank you, Dion. Thank you very much.
Wow, sir.
Come on.
You
Now,
let
me ask you this.
Yes.
So I've been on the air for this show 20 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where were you 20 years ago?
20 years ago, I was a struggling student or former student. I was doing overnights, making about $7.50 an hour.
Uh-huh.
But I loved it, though. I loved it because I was in radio, and
Right.
I loved radio, and I wanted to do radio for the rest of my career. So I figured
Were you still living at home?
I was, and my mother was very pissed because she had spent a very obscene amount of money for Syracuse University tuition and could not believe that here I was making $7.50 an hour outside of college.
I know.
And she wanted every penny of her money back.
I know. Everybody says,
Yes.
You want to go into radio or television? You want to go into journalism? Are you kidding? Nobody makes money in that.
Eventually, it makes sense. And I told her that. I'm like, it doesn't make sense now, but
Right.
it will. And it kind of makes sense now because she's retired and she gets all the, casino money that she needs. So
Because usually
it's a win-win.
I meet guys, maybe a little younger than you, but they tell me, when I was young and in school, I watched you every day, my mother watched you every day, and my grandmother watched you every day in the same room.
Yes. Yes. You are that kind of viewing. Like, I remember, Price is Right, sitting at my grandmother's,
Sure.
the edge of her bed, watching The Price is Right. Watching soap operas.
Sure.
Watching Maury, watching Jerry.
Right.
And I guess first, have you run out of people yet? Have the people run out?
No.
Are you duplicating
There's
people?
an endless
Maury?
supply. It's called America.
Man, and
I mean, we're not like gas. I mean, we're not like fuel. We got people. We're going to have people for the next 20 years.
Oh my gosh, man! I would swear that there's no way he can keep this up. How many questionable DNA tests
that's
are there
true.
in this
I-
world?
I
Maury?
mean, well, I'll tell you one thing, Dion.
Yeah.
I learned that the New York Times about 5 years ago put out a story in their Sunday magazine, and they talked about this survey. 10% of all kids in this country are with the wrong father.
Wow, 10%,
10%
and don't know it
don't know it.
until they come on your
And
show.
by the way, fathers might not know it.
yeah.
Neither one of them know it.
So how about
For instance, we get a lot of fathers who begin to doubt that they're the father of this child, who,
Yeah.
by the way, they've been raising for 3, 4, 5 years,
right?
and they are devastated if it's proven they're not the father. I mean, these people have
Yeah.
bonded with this child.
Yeah.
They feel it's part of their DNA, and it's
Right.
not.
Those segments I've seen, and those are the very heartfelt.
Yes.
Normally second or third segment in,
Right.
but that first segment, Maury, where it's like all bets are off, where and to me, oh, thank God I'm sitting here talking to you, because one of the most ignorant things in the world, Maury, is when they say, look at those eyes.
Right, exactly.
Look at them cheeks.
Right.
Them ain't my cheeks.
Right.
What?
Right, exactly, right. That baby's too light to be mine, or that baby's too dark to be mine.
Oh, my God. And you just sit there like,
I mean,
okay,
I have
we'll find
seen it all. I have seen people of significant color are the fathers of the lightest babies you've ever seen in your life.
Yes. Yes. And so when ish hits the fan and the sprint starts, number one, where are they going?
Well, they're running backstage, and
Okay.
usually they find a sofa, and they fall down on a sofa. Some fall down on the floor, and then I go try and console them and tell them, it was an honest mistake. We'll be
Yeah.
glad to help you if you want to bring somebody else out. I'll tell you the funniest send-up of that was about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Tyler Perry calls me and says, I'm doing this Medea movie, and Medea has a problem because somebody doesn't believe that this particular child is mine. And I want you to come on in the movie, and I have to do a DNA test. And I go to Atlanta. By the way, he has a studio in Atlanta that is, I mean, it's Hollywood.
I heard
It's
this
just
thing
as
is
just as
huge.
big as Warner Brothers
Yeah.
or Columbia or any of the big studios in California. And so we do this in a big soundstage. He completely recreates my set.
Wow.
A perfect recreation of my set. And he as Medea comes on. I read the result, and he's not the father.
Right.
He runs off the stage, runs behind the stage, falls down on the sofa. I mean, he has tracked my show so well.
Yes.
He knows exactly what to do.
We know, man. we know every nuance of this show, man. We know every bit from the beginning. I told you the first segment's crazy. The second, third was a little more,
Right.
And we got to, you tease us with the first one to come back all the way at the end. Like, we know how these things work, Maury, man. We do. Did you ever think that it would become such an indelible mark of pop culture when you first started this thing?
No, I didn't. I had no idea. I think what happened, one of the good things that happened was that the first time we did a DNA show, and it was probably like season 2 or 3, I'm being briefed on the story, all the characters, what's happened, all the accusations and stuff. And so now the producer says, and the answer is, I said, I don't want to know the result. I want to be as surprised as the guest.
Yes.
The live studio audience, the home audience.
Yeah.
I would skew my questions if I knew the answer.
Right.
So I would ask things that.
So you really don't know until you open the envelope?
Not a clue on DNA and lie detectors.
Wow. So you find out when we find out.
Absolutely.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, and I'm as surprised as anybody. And, there's the classic story that one time I had a woman who accused this guy of being the father of her twins. And I open up the envelope, and this guy is the father of one, but not the other.
Yes.
The $1 million to
I
one
want to say
shot.
I've seen that one, but I think we've done that one before.
Right.
But I've seen that.
I mean, it is just. I didn't know. I didn't know that with fraternal twins, not identical twins, fraternal twins, you can have two fathers.
My theory for that was so outside that I don't even want to repeat what I was thinking with like.
Right. Where have I been? Where's that woman been?
Right. What happened right after that time? And I won't ask the question. But it's funny though. You bring up a very funny point. There was a time when the Maury Povich show was not all about DNA results.
No. When I started in 1991.
Yeah.
Before this current show, we were. I mean, look, we went to Waco for the Branch Davidians.
Wow.
I mean, we went a lot of places. We did cooking segments.
Yeah.
We did fashion segments. We did. I have a crush on this guy segments. I mean, we did all of these tame and newsy things. Well, that was a long time ago.
Man. So we're celebrating 20 years of
the Maury show.
Of the current Maury show.
Yeah,
but I said to myself, I got to do the math because I remember watching this guy way before 97.
Right. It was 91 it started.
Amazing.
The Maury Povich show started in 91, and before that was A Current Affair.
A Current Affair, right. I got the theme song in my head right now. That thing.
The triangle.
Yes.
We called it the ka-chung.
The ka-chung, right.
They named it after my wife.
Yes. How is Connie doing?
She's doing great, and she's terrific. In fact, we're going to. There's Howard.
I told you. I told you. The walk to the freight train elevator. That's all we see him. And now look. Here's Sway. Look,
there comes Sway.
We're gonna miss the actual.
Oh wow! They're actually gonna see each other.
Miss the moment, right, man?
He's probably telling Howard.
Funny.
There you go, Sway. You saw Howard, didn't you? See, I saw you saw Howard. He said that you all didn't get up to Howard's end of the building.
That's funny, man. It's the only time when we see him. Only time.
So where was I? What was I talking about? I can't remember. Anyway.
We were talking.
About Chung.
Yes, Connie.
Connie Chung. So A Current Affair. Mm-hmm. So they named the triangle the ka-chung.
Ka-chung.
And it was. We always believed when we first started A Current Affair that we wanted to be kind of like 60 Minutes, so that if everybody you hear that ticking of the clock, you go, 60 Minutes is on.
Right.
So we wanted something that would say, Current Affair is on. So they put our technical producer took the swish of a golf club and the old-time sound of a construction paper cutter in elementary school, you used to have these construction paper cutters,
Yes.
And put the swish of the club and the sound of that through a synthesizer, and they got the ka-chung.
Amazing.
Ka-chung.
Historic, iconic. Sidebar about your lovely wife.
Yes.
You know, I don't know what happened in the 90s. I was young, but I loved when they paired her up with Dan Rather and what that meant for journalism, what that meant for women in broadcasting. And, you know, it wasn't a success and, you know, whatever. You read what you want to read about it. But it was such a great moment.
Yeah, it was great. And that was her. Thank you. Awesome. And I'll tell her that because she'll be very appreciative. She worked at CBS for a long time, and although she had worked at NBC as well, but Walter Cronkite was her hero, and he loved her as one of his reporters during the Watergate years and things like that. And her aspiration had always been to somehow, at some point, sit in that chair, and she did. And it didn't end well, but I keep telling her, I said, look, you got to the top of the mountain. What the heck? I mean, don't just because it didn't go well, don't worry about it. But she still thinks about it.
Nice. Maury Povich is here. At what point did your journalistic lanes sort of switch up a little bit? Yeah.
Well, I worked about 20 years in journalism. I started in Washington, D.C., my hometown, near your hometown in Baltimore, and Balmer.
Thank you. Yes. Balmer. Down the ocean.
Down the ocean.
Yes.
You're going to Ocean City.
Ocean City, hon. You know. Thank you. He knows. He gets it, man. Love it.
Oh, that Middle Atlantic accent. Oh, yeah. So anyway, and by the way, Baltimore, Washington are more southern than they are northern. People don't get that.
Yeah, unless you're down there because you don't want to be referred to as a southerner.
Right.
You know,
but most of your people and my people came from the South because they migrated. I always said about Washington, it was very interesting. It was a city of Southern whites because all the people in Congress who ran the committees, who had all the patronage, who got jobs, were Southern Democrats who had been the chairman of all those committees. So Southern whites got there.
Yeah.
Southern blacks got there because you could work for the federal government or go into the military, and that was the first stop outside the South.
Yep, better
you
jobs
could get
in the
a job.
South. Yep, my grandparents migrated from South Carolina.
Right,
absolutely, man.
Into Baltimore.
Into Baltimore. Yep.
For that reason,
grandfather went up first, got the job, and my grandmother brought the whole family up.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's the way it was. And so, I mean, we were pretty integrated back, when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And so it was great. Anyway, what happened was, after 20 years, and I don't know about you, but I bounced around. I got fired. I got hired. I didn't like the management. They didn't like me. I had to leave. One time, I left Washington. I worked in Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Philadelphia.
Just all the majors.
In 7 years.
Yeah.
But in other words, I bounced around. I had a friend of mine, Richard Reeves, who wrote for Esquire magazine, and he said, I've seen my friend, Maury Povich, anchor in 4 different cities on 4 successive St. Patrick's Days. He's trying to go nationwide, city by city.
But you know what? You're bouncing around beats. I mean, you didn't say Corpus Christi, Chattanooga.
No, they were big.
They
were big-time markets.
Right. It was some big-time cities, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I'll say that.
So you're doing the newsy
I'm doing news things, and whatever talk shows I did were very newsy types or local today type formats.
Yep.
I hated introducing a story in 20 seconds. A story goes on the air. It's a minute, 20 seconds, and then it's gone. And in talk shows, I mean, even in this, because I think this is storytelling, what I do, we have a long time to get into the story and get through the story and get the story out there so that the audience has a better idea of what's happening. So I'm much more attracted to that kind of storytelling than the news. I mean, I found the news very restrictive.
I could see that.
And not only that, I had a terrible habit of ad-libbing a lot of the stuff around the news, and those news directors didn't like that.
How do you ad-lib? Right. How do you ad-lib a fire?
I mean, I didn't like exactly the intro to the news. So the intro to a story. So I would kind of like walk around it in a way and give it a little more color and things like that. They didn't like that.
Were your journalistic friends a little concerned when you turned this corner?
Well, it's very interesting. I like to think this when Connie and I go out in New York, and we've been in New York now for, I don't know, 30 years or so, and Connie is, regaled and it's bow down to Connie and everything else. So we go to these social events that involve media, and we might be in some hoity-toity apartment in New York City, and everybody is surrounding Connie, and I got my arms folded standing around there. And I've known these people for years, but no, they want to talk to Connie and not to me. I walk into the kitchen, and I see all the service people in the kitchen, and they love
all
me.
About you. Right. Right. Yes. See what your audience is, man. Yes. 20 years, man. We've been coming up on the Maury Show, man. And now here we are. 2017.
Right.
The era of fake news.
Oh, boy.
Do you ever, when you're pitched at a producer's meeting, or, you hear concepts of this week's show,
right,
today's show, and you think, this cannot possibly be true?
Well, yeah. And guess what? I mean, and we work like a newsroom because we have production teams that check these stories out, and we know that they're on the up and up. Yeah. But something, you said something. I'm glad I'm not in news today because of not only the accusation of fake news, but I believe it or not, I mean, I hate to say this, but some of the institutions that I really believed in for so long, I think there are agendas out there that didn't exist back then. And even some of the print material. I mean, I think there's New York Times is not the same paper it was when I was in the news business. I think it's a different kind of paper. I think MSNBC has an agenda. Fox has an agenda.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe CNN now has an agenda now because they're getting a lot of good ratings because of the Trump presidency, and they're spending a lot more time on Trump than normal because it gets them ratings. I think they're a creature of ratings.
I felt like the media kind of let me down for the first time last year.
Yeah.
Post-election. I felt like, wait a minute, this isn't what you told me prior to the election.
Right.
So how could you have been wrong that entire time?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So now we can look at it a little more carefully.
I think Hillary Clinton has a point when she says that the press paid too much attention to Trump, and not enough to the rest of us.
Yeah.
And I think, and you saw it if Trump got away with so much by doing these interviews on the phone, and people would do phone interview for 25 minutes on CNN or MSNBC or Fox. I mean, I wouldn't put a guy on the phone on the air for that long. I mean, that's not news gathering. That's letting a guy sit in his office and basically hump you.
Right. Not even the fun way. It's just a dry hump.
Yeah.
We're here with Maury Povich. 20 years.
Right.
What can we expect? What else you got in the tank,
well,
bro?
I'll tell you, we are because we have to keep current. We're now concentrating a lot on social media.
Yep.
We do stuff now. We do original segments on Facebook and YouTube. We have a whole Instagram. We have 3.1 million followers on Facebook. I mean, who'd have thunk it? I mean, 3.1 million people, and so we have to, if that's the way people are going to get their media, we're going to do things that way. We have to work harder.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that.
Nice.
But we're still doing DNA, and we're still doing lie detectors, and we're still doing out of control teenagers.
You still get what you come to Maury for. Yes, he's stepping it up, but it's still the essence of why you came in the first place. But still up in Stanford?
Still in Stanford.
Nice.
I drive up there a couple of times a week to do the show. We do 3 shows on Thursday, 2 shows on Friday. I work about 31 weeks. It's a great gig. Can't give it up.
Life, man.
I can't give it up.
I should check that out. I've got family in Norwalk. So
you do?
Right past.
Oh, you ought to come.
Yeah.
Oh, Dion, come on.
Summers in Baltimore. My family's in Newark. We would catch the train to Stanford.
Oh, is that right?
And drive up to Norwalk from there. Yeah, I got to check this thing out, man. I really have to. That's done. That's a done deal, man. Congratulations,
Come on, we do
bro.
some clip shows. I'll let you do some clips.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Witnesses.
No, I'm serious.
No, I'm serious too. I'm talking to your women after we finish this conversation.
No,
you heard them, right?
We do the best of all these funny kind of clips about car chases and stuff like that.
Nice.
Come
Put
on
me
up
down,
and do
Maury.
it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you, Maury.
Good to see you.
Some good stuff, man. Congratulations on everything.
And
if you're watching the video, he did the Black Power handshake. This man's amazing. This man's incredible. Maury Povich on the Heat, Sirius XM. Here's to 20 more years, Maury.
Thanks so much.
Congratulations, sir.